Hey, I'm just getting back from Baja, and before I fully unpack and clean everything up, just wanted to talk you through how I had my Pivotless SL set up for a just 3-day, 2-night casita to casita bikepacking loop on the Cape Loop. This Pivotless SL is set up to be a drop bar mountain bike, which I've been really psyched with for a little over a year now. In order to do that, I have paired Shimano GRX drivetrain with Shimano XT components. And so we have the GRX shifters and brakes up front, GRX derailleur, and my XTR 165mm cranks. The only real kind of customization to make this work on this bike is to pair a GRX brake lever and hose to the XT brake caliper that fits this hardtail brake mount. But with the Wolf 234 tooth chainring and the Shimano XT 1051 cassette, really happy with my gearing on this loop. I would say you could go down to a 32 or even a 30 and be happy. I personally wouldn't go bigger than a 34. There's a good amount of steep climbing and good amount of sand riding. So on the sand note, this route's known for people taking fat bikes and plus bikes. I've had good luck with this lighter load setup where I'm not carrying water to camp overnight or camping gear to run a standard 2.4 mountain bike tire. I chose the Maxxis Aspens in the 2.4 width, mounted on the Industry 9 Solix XC ultralight wheel set. And that worked really well for me. I am running inserts, and so I was able to run quite low pressure for the sandy bits, which is really one of the best techniques for managing sand, in addition to a wider tire. If I were to go heavier, or if I'd heard the route was especially dry and sandy, I could go up to the 2.6, and I'd probably choose a Recon or an Icon in that size. So beyond those elements of the bike, the contact points and just comfort, being on the saddle for long days, I have an Ergon SR Women's Pro Carbon saddle, which is my go-to for all my bikes. And then I chose a Shimano Pro Discover Aero carbon bar in the widest width available in order to have more bike handling that a wider bar offers on a mountain bike, and just slightly more comfortable and variety of hand positions for the bikepacking days. Really enjoyed being able to ride on the hoods and in the drops and have my hands up on top. I have it double wrapped, and I am using the Ergon All-Road Bar Tape. So hands, butt, and feet were really comfortable using the Wolf Tooth new Alt XC pedal in the narrowest Q factor. And for shoes, I wore my Shimano Aspire shoes that are well broken in. Did put brand new cleats in, as that is the part that is going to cause issues on long days if they're worn out. A few other little build details. I am always training, and so I have a 4i power meter on my crank, which I think is especially helpful for balancing that with heart rate when riding in the heat or at altitude and bikepacking. So it gives me a really good idea of what the training impact on the day was. Also helps with pacing early on when you're feeling fresh. And I run 160mm rotors on this bike with a 124. I think a 100 or 110 would be a really good setup too. So that is the setup. All my bags are Revolate. I'm running a new handlebar bag that will be talked about soon. The new mountain feed bag up here. In these two bags, I had a lot of the day things I needed. We'll go through the contents. Have a long top tube bag and the Nook. I chose to run 2 water bottles in my frame, given one, how small it is, and because I was just riding from town to town, I was able to not need to carry as much food for overnight, and so could dedicate more frame space to bottles and having different electrolytes and drinks in those. Down in the Stoat, got my repair kit, and in seat bags, I had my clothes. Up in my cockpit, in addition to these bags, I have my Stoat, which of course did not need to be charged, and starting full and riding for, I have to add it up, but it was about 240 miles, maybe 30 hours in 3 days. It's only down at 65%. So that's pretty remarkable. And I have my Phoenix BC26R handlebar light on my handlebars. And that was everything on my bike. So next I'll talk about what I packed and if there's anything I would change for a trip to ride the same loop or of one similar. So up in this new little handlebar bag, I had carried my passport and my wallet, so those are always easily accessible. And then just kind of random little things like a toothbrush, spoon, and headphones. And those are all accessible, or it's just a convenient place to store long things that I don't want to get folded. In the front, I had my Phoenix headlamp, which I'd pull on in the morning and then take off for the day and put back on at night. The HM65R. And then I also had other food in here. Everything from burritos to gummies to chips. There were Coke in there at one point. And so I was just able to quickly stuff bigger capacity food in there. In the mountain feed bag, I had those little things they just kind of need throughout the day. Water filter. Also had more food in there. Sunscreen, chapstick, my chain rag, my wolf tooth chain lube, just in the little 2 ounce or tiny size, 0.5 ounce size, chamois butter, and I think I had more sunscreen in there at some point. And so those were just all those things so that they're accessible, and when I need them, I use them, whether it's sunscreen or chamois lube, chamois butter, or chain lube. There's no reason to not put it on as soon as it's needed, because that is how you prevent any of those issues. Down in the top 2 bag, I had food, which is now empty because I have finished my trip. Down in here, I had food that was for either later in the day, or I always carry a backup Roctane gel, because that's going to bring me back to life faster than anything else. And I bring Roctane Recovery Drink Mix to mix in town so that I could still be prioritizing recovery. And so on this trip, I just had 2 of those. Really easy and worth that investment in getting the carbs and protein as soon as I'm done riding. And so now let's go into the repair kit and then the seat bag. Okay, so for what I had in the different bags, clothing, had bike repair, had kind of my KB kit, you know, take care of myself, had personal safety, then there's food and water. So in my seat bag, is now a 10-year-old prototype from Revelate that I'm still using because their stuff just lasts forever. We have my clothes. We'll get into this kit in a moment. Had a wind jacket, Patagonia Houdini. I didn't wear it, despite riding from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. one day. Never needed it. I had the Dirt Roamer Patagonia shirt, which I wore at night at dinner when I cooled down. I had a cotton t-shirt that I wore in town, and then I wore on the last day as a treat because it feels good to wear cotton in dry heat. I had a pair of really thin nylon joggers that I wore in town. This was my town outfit. I brought a pair of underwear for sleeping in. And then I brought a pair of Rafa bibs that I wore one of the days. I tend to bike pack with 2 pairs of shorts that are different and different seams. For this ride, I probably could have just gotten away with 1 pair, as I only wore these one day, but it was nice for my bottom to have a different pair of shorts on for the long day. And then I had a second pair of socks. So I had a pair of clean socks in town, and then a pair of socks that I rode in. And of course, I wore the last clean pair on the last day. For riding, I generally had a pair of socks. I had my sports bra. I had my Coros heart rate monitor armband. So the coach knows what I was doing out there, in addition to my power meter. I had a really thin Patagonia 3/4 sleeve wool layer. It's very breathable, added to some sun protection. And then I had my Dirt Roamer baggy shorts that are seamless, and I don't wear a chamois under those. And that's what I was wearing, except one day, of course, I switched shorts. The only thing I would change for this trip in the future would be bringing a pair of gloves. I forgot gloves, and my hands got burned and had a bit of a sun reaction despite reapplying sunscreen constantly. They're just really hard to protect. And an additional sports bra would have been nice, so I had something to swim in, or could just put on a dry one in town and then be able to rinse my new one and have it drying while out getting dinner or going swimming. So minor. Gloves definitely the most important. Second, sports bra just would have been nice. I definitely have the room for it. For hydration, nutrition was easy. We resupplied a lot. All the food went into these bags and the Regulate bar bag. I carried my Patagonia running vest with a 1.5 liter bladder. And in this, I also had an InReach, and my phone would be in this pocket. And then on my helmet, I have my Copilot ID, which works internationally. So between the Copilot ID, my phone, and InReach, I had plenty of different ways to respond to emergency or be taken care of if I was in an accident. On the safety element, I had a Phoenix blinky strapped to my head. My clearance with a rear tire and a seat bag, you can't see a blinky if it's on my seat post. So I put it on my head because that's up and more at the height that vehicles would be seeing it. And then I also always bike pack with an Apple AirTag just tucked into one of my bags. So if my bike were to wander off, it's an easy way for me to track it. Obviously, it's not foolproof, but it gives me peace of mind. It also works well having it in your bike when traveling in airports because it's one additional way to keep track of your luggage. In addition to the toiletries that you saw come out of this with, a toothbrush, my money, passport, my spoon. I had sunscreen, lip balm in my feed bag. I also carried toothpaste, some lotion. I had a cord that would charge my lights and my Dura. I didn't have to charge any of those. And my phone charging cord, a wall charger since you're staying in at night, and just a really little power. In my Stoat, which, if you don't know, can either mount to your seat, like so, or to your down tube, the way I had it. I had my repair items, other than my chain loop, which I kept accessible so I could loop my chain multiple times through the day really easily. And the repair kit in the Stoat. we have a little Leatherman multi-tool, which has pliers. I have a UDH derailleur hanger. It's compatible with my pivotless. Have quick links. I have a wolf tooth multi-tool with pack pliers and a bunch of different bits that I need. Also functions as a tire lever. I have a tube, 129er tube, tubolito. I have the Pro chain tool that comes off one of their multi-tools. I have a Wolf Tooth 40C pump. And in that, there's a plug tool and all the plugs that I need. So thick and thin plugs. And then lastly, a small repair kit. Both my riding partner, Alexis, and I brought one. And that's everything I brought to Baja. I had everything I needed for just 3 days of riding and staying in casitas at night. I was really happy with how light my bike was and how fun it was to ride each day for long days. And other than making sure I bring gloves and plenty of sunscreen, I wouldn't change anything that I brought.